Read Zechariah Sitchin, which I suspect most of you are familiar with. His stories are shockingly accurate in the fact they literally tell the essential story of our beginnings. They translate these ancient cuneiform tablets from Sumer. Zechariah is not the only one. There was a brilliant Englishman with the name of Christian O'Brien who went home a year or so ago. Christian O'Brien wrote a beautiful, unbelievable, powerful book called The Genius of the Few. If you can ever find that somewhere, get a copy. Christian O'Brien said essentially the same thing Zechariah has said. We were genetically engineered, and they've been coming and going, and they've been in our midst for a hell of a long time. And somebody said to Sitchin one time, Zechariah, when are they coming back? And he said, whatever made you think they ever left? And I don't think they did ever leave. Now, again, this is, I think, a little shocking information here. At least it shocked the hell out of me. Now, when I was in Germany at a conference some years ago, a Russian cosmonaut by the name of Marina Popovich handed out a few copies to me and Michael Hesseman, another researcher, friend of mine, that the Soviet Phobos mission took on Mars when it was out there 15, 20 years ago. The Soviets sent this fantastic mission to Mars. They named it Phobos 2 because Phobos 1 is one of the moons of Mars, 12 miles in diameter. So they named their space mission Phobos 2, and they took a whole bunch of pictures. One of the pictures they took, which Michael Hesseman published in his magazine, is apparently a city the size of Chicago under the surface in Mars, generating an enormous amount of heat, because this photo was taken in the infrared. As I said, it's in German at the bottom here, but Michael had published it in his magazine. From Phobos 2, a city under the surface of Mars the size of Chicago. You can see practically, the blocks, the streets, so on. So yes, Virginia, there are Martians, and yes, they are on Mars, and some of them are probably here, because we apparently don't look that different from each other. But you'll never see this published in an American newspaper or an American magazine. Had to be published in Germany by Michael Hesseman. Phobos took another picture. While it was in orbit around Mars, and the story I was told is that they literally planned to land on Phobos, the moon. Well, they never got there. Because while they're in orbit around Mars, this thing came up from the surface of Mars, gigantic in size, and apparently bumped Phobos 2, and knocked it out of orbit, and down it went. So there's somebody up there who says, no. You can come and peek, but then you can't stay very long, and you're not going to take that many pictures. We're not going to allow it. Okay. I think that does my photographs for you this afternoon. I don't know where the hell the turn-off button on this thing is. Maybe Bill can find it. Anyhow, I'll leave it. Now, as I said to you, I'm ticked off. I have this pissed off roster, which is a work of joy and pleasure for me. As I said, politicians at the top, particularly the United States Congress, they're a bunch of clowns. They literally run a circus back there. Theologians are right next, below. Forgive me, I'm not anti-religious. I simply don't like religion because it tends to divide people It separates people. My God is better than your God. My book is better than your book. My story is truer than your story. And so on, and so on, and so on. So I'm not religious at all. I've studied them all. I've studied Hinduism. I've studied Islam. I've studied Judaism. I was raised a Christian. I've studied Christianity. I consider the young man from Galilee my best friend. But that's another story that I don't think we have time for me to get into. I went through a series of hypnotic past life regressions a number of years ago. And one of the lives that I discovered was in Galilee 2,000 years ago with him. So I say he was my best friend and he still is my best friend. Anyhow, I'm not anti-religious. I respect the people who are sincere and honest about it. But it does tend to separate people. It divides people. And I try to promote the concept of a spiritual approach to life. If you human beings had the slightest idea of what you are, my God, you're incredible. You are all of you masterpieces. You really need to know what Yogananda said. You need to reach a state of self-realization when you recognize that within you burns a spark of pure divinity. And it don't matter what church you go to, or what language you speak, or what politics you are, or what color your skin might be. That don't matter. You are divinity in itself. You are part of that infinite spark, which my friend from Galilee said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And the gang back there didn't really grasp what he was talking about. But his truths and his words are as legitimate today as they ever were. And you guys are getting there. You're beginning to pay attention. You're beginning to wake up. Now, as I said, my pissed off list goes down, you know. We had NASA, the politicians, the theologians, and then there's the American mass of people, the public. What is it they used to call the great unwashed? You know, Joe Sixpack. Listen, I have to be kind with Joe because at the moment, bless his heart, he may have lost his job. He may be losing his home. He can't pay his bills. He's got kids to send through school and educate and buy clothes for. So I'm trying to be gentle with Joe Sixpack because he's carrying a heavy load right now. I mean, there are tens of thousands of them out there, all over the country. There may be some of them in the audience here tonight, and you probably know a few of them, and they're damn fine people. So I'm not trying to fault them too much, the fact that they're not paying attention. I get a little ticked off NASCAR, basketball, football, tennis, golf. My God, these fixations with these little balls, you know? Freud would have a ball with that, you know? No pun intended. Old Sigmund would have a real fine time working that out. Okay. Forgive me for wandering. It's important that I get some of this stuff. One of the things that I fault the average guy out there is for his attention span. He seems to be suffering, the masses of them seem to be suffering what they call attention deficit disorder. Now, it's a problem that the kids in school have. They can't seem to focus on anything more than 2 or 3 minutes, and then they're off somewhere else. And I blame television for that, as well as their parents for allowing them to do that. How many of them sit down and read a book these days? Anyhow, their attention span is very, very limited. The public